I'd like to ask, maybe starting with Mr. Singleton and go down the row here. A few years ago when I visited Australia with Senator Warner, who was chairman of the Intelligence Committee, and Angus King, and also another member of the Intelligence Committee, I was struck by the fact that talking to Australian parliamentarians, that the assumption that I had made that Australia would join in any collective defense of Taiwan that the United States was involved in just as a matter of course. But because of the politics in their own country, the diaspora of Chinese in Australia, it caused me to question who might join us in that effort. Mr. Singleton, who can we rely on besides ourselves?
It's a great question, and I think what the PRC is doing is actively exploiting all the cleavages amongst the democracies to sow doubt on this question. I personally believe that in the event of a Taiwan contingency, Canberra would step up, but it will largely depend on the political calculus in Canberra at the time, the makeup of its government, and of course, the Chinese get a vote and the leverage that they can employ over the Australians and all of our partners, frankly. I would put the most bang for my buck on the Japanese. I think we've seen real shifts in strategy, rhetoric, and resource allocation in Japan. The election of a new, very hawkish Japanese prime minister is an excellent sign. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I suspect this will come down to U.S. power and U.S. pressure in the region.
Mr. Powell, do you have a different view, Dr. Ratner?
I do not. I completely agree with Mr. Singleton. I was the U.S. Defense Attaché to Australia from 2017 to 2020. I used to, when I would brief our incoming delegations, I would often remind them that Australia is, despite all of our experience on the military side, is not the 51st state and does not necessarily sign up to everything that we decide to do, even though they have been extraordinarily consistent in supporting U.S. operations throughout the decades. I think that one of the things we often forget is that when we are engaged in our own internal public discourse, that the world watches and that they are also, in many cases, democracies. And so it's very important that we sort of calibrate our rhetoric so that we bring them in rather than sort of find reasons to sort of cleave them off. So it's very important, I think, that we sometimes, when we're talking out loud, remember that the Australian people are listening.
Dr. Ratner, let me withhold that answer from you because that time is limited, and I want to get back to all of you on another important topic. A few years ago, as a result of COVID, we realized how dependent we are on extended supply chains of critical technology. For example, advanced semiconductors. And it occurred to me, and not just me alone, but many of us, that another pandemic, another war, another natural disaster would be disastrous to the United States in terms of our access to advanced semiconductors that we need for virtually everything, including our weapons. So I wanted to ask about our dependency on China for processing of critical minerals. 90% of the world's critical minerals are processed in China. They use that as enormous leverage. And while we did plus up the Office of Strategic Capital and the Development Finance Corporation and the Working Families Tax Cut Act, otherwise known as the One Big Beautiful Bill, how should we use that leverage those authorities and that funding to counter PRC's dominance when it comes to critical mineral processing? We'll start with you, Mr. Singleton.
Sure, I would just add that the late Chinese leader Deng Xiaoping said that the Middle East has oil, but China has rare earths, and they've shown a willingness to weaponize it in the last year. I think this gets back to your last question. Where are our partners? The Australians are a natural partner here. They're a mining superpower. The Japanese have capital and they have connections in countries like Malaysia, where President Trump is getting ready to go in a few weeks. We should be signing deals in this space aggressively, thinking about capital pooling, but also offload agreements. And I think it just represents a tremendous opportunity for enhancing alliance cohesion in the region.
Let me ask Dr. Ratner, do you have a view?
I would agree with Mr. Singleton and just say that, look, we need to build secure supply chains with our allies and partners, not closing ourselves off from the rest of the world.
My time's up. Thank you, sir.
Ranking Member Coons. You want? I'm inclined to defer to Senator Duckworth if she's prepared to question, because we're going to do a number of rounds.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Ranking Member Coons. On my frequent travels